So we're about to begin our second presentation of the day. Please join me in welcoming Mediengruppe Bitnik.
Hi. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here today. We're Mediengruppe Bitnik. We're from Zurich, Switzerland. My name is Carmen. This is Doma. We're an artist group working on and with the internet. We've been working for about 10 or 12 years now. We have a very explorative interventionist practice. And I think we would just like to introduce you to three of our works to give you sort of an overview of what we do. The first work is called Opera Calling, a work we realized together with the Gabriel Voltaire in Zurich in 2007. The Gabriel Voltaire, you might be familiar with the name, is an institution founded at the birthplace of Dada. Dada was founded in Zurich in 1916. Our starting point for this work was a curiosity about our local opera house in Zurich. We have a very large opera house which competes internationally with Milano and Vienna. And we wondered, as internet artists, coming from this copy and paste, from easy access, from easy publishing, we wondered about this house being so closed and so
inaccessible.
You have to be dead to be played there. That sort of totally different cultural system. And we asked ourselves if we could open this cultural system up to other new uses through the technologies we have.
So what we like to do we like to work with history, or we like to watch how media was used before. So we found this beautiful picture which shows one of the first uses of the telephone. So this was called the Telefonero Mondo, and there was a time where there was nobody to be called because not many people had the phone yet. So the telephone companies needed to invent services, and this was before the radio actually was invented. So they started to use the telephone network to connect homes, people at home, with cultural happenings. So they did live broadcastings out of the opera over the telephone switchboards into the homes of people. And at home, people wouldn't have the telephone wasn't something where a direct communication was happening, in a sense of you could talk back, but you had more like a horn or a loudspeaker, which was there publicly. So people could attend, for the first time, people could attend to live events which weren't happening in the same room, which was kind of...
And we thought that's really interesting. You can be part of an opera audience without actually going there.
So this was 100 years ago.
Yeah, why don't we rebuild this 100 years later? Because it sort of solves some of our problems, like access and the cost of going to the opera, having to be dressed in a certain way. And we restaged this cultural distribution network, which was the beginning of the telephone 100 years later in Zurich. And we did this without asking for permission. So we actually had to bug the opera. We hid audio bugs within the auditorium of the opera house in Zurich, and connected the live feed we had from the ongoing performances to our local telephone network. So we just fed a computer with all the phone numbers of the Zurich telephone book and told the computer to randomly call people and connect them live to the opera.
So, journalists started to call up the opera house to ask them, if they know that they are bugged, and so they started to look for those strange devices. And this is a TV screenshot from a news format in Switzerland, 10 for 10, where you see the director holding one of those bugs. So they started to look for them, and he was kind of, I don't know, how should I say? Disappointed that we use telephones, so they really had the feeling that we are using like James Bond-like devices, which are really small. And yeah, there was also like this legal thing which started immediately. I mean, like they sent us a really harsh letter saying that we need to remove all the bugs. They want to have the control over their live audio feed, and would have like 2 days
to do that.
To do that. If not, they would send the military to debug the opera house, and they would send us the bill. And there were also like things because of copyright infringement or which were there, things about license fees. So normally you pay for broadcasting something, and obviously this didn't happen.
And the media picked up on the work, and there was a public debate on cultural ownership. So in Zurich, 85% of the Zurich Opera is publicly funded. Should this not be public access? At least, I don't know, the audio feed, things like that were debated. And so the charges or the threat of charging us was dropped by the opera, and we transmitted, or we enhanced the opera program for 3 months, and called around 5,000 telephone landlines around Zurich, and played them about 100 hours of opera.
So we'll just show you one of those calls, which is now translated into a video. So we have these telephone calls happening right now, and some subtitles. Can you go a little bit louder?
It's the Sunday afternoon performance, and yeah,
a family at home receives one of those strange opera calls. Can you put up?
Ja, hallo, grüezi. Hier ist das autonome Operntelefon der Stadt Zürich. Zu Ihrer Freude und Unterhaltung angehende Zürcher Oper.
Sorry, I just.
Ja, hallo, grüezi. Hier ist das autonome Operntelefon der Stadt Zürich. Zu Ihrer Freude und Unterhaltung angehende Zürcher Oper ein Wandel platziert. In wenigen Sekunden werden Sie live ins Opernhaus verbunden. Sie können bequem von Ihrem Wohnzimmer aus der heutigen Vorstellung von der Rosenkavalier von Richard Strauss beiwohnen. Viel Spaß.
Ja. Hallo, was soll das? Das ist großartig. Du, ich häng da auf, ne? Ich häng da auf, was soll das Ganze? Ich will ja meine Oper abdrehen. Nee, noch nicht. Ja, hier, da singt einer, wunderschön. Ja. Also hier, dann komm mal. Also die Akustik ist eine absolute Katastrophe. Aber bitte, was bringt's dir? Da hast du das.
Michael, ich muss euch die Aktion erklären. Die rufen Leute an, wählen die aus, so der Zufallsgenerator, das Opernhaus, das wird so stark subventioniert und nur die reichen Leute haben was davon. Und jetzt haben sie Wanzen angebracht und
Könnte, kann man die Oper jetzt live, das spielt sie jetzt ab, kann man die Oper miterleben.
Geht da mit Telefon und
Das sind Grüne, die wollen alle was davon haben, bei dem Opernhaus.
So obviously she got parts of the story, but I mean, like she thought that we are more like political activists or being part of the Green Party, which we weren't, but we didn't care too much. So the whole process of doing works like this is really fluid, so we can control things which are happening at this moment. And yeah, the opera decided to let this run because like there was too much media attention on it, and they didn't want to be the bad guys suing the artists, doing things like which are more like symbolic gesture. And yeah.
Yeah, they go on to discuss. They try to find out what they're listening to.
The family here.
Yeah, the family here, and but you can watch it online if you like to finish watching it. The second work we would like to briefly introduce you to is called Delivery for Mr. Assange. It's a work we realized in 2013, beginning of 2013. And with this work, we started from intense interest in the situation in which Julian Assange has been living here in London. He's been living at the Ecuadorian embassy since June 2012. The Ecuadorian embassy has been surrounded by British police since August 2012. And for us as artists, always searching for images to sort of understand what is happening around us in the world we live in, that was a really strong image for what's going on between internet aficionados, or people who want information to be free, and the powers that be. So you can actually go to Harrods, walk behind Harrods, and you're confronted with a war zone. You're in the middle of a war zone. You have an embassy surrounded by police. You have a lot of surveillance gear around. And we found this to be, it's like maybe a crack, you know, somewhere where you can see that this super polished surface of our day-to-day sort of comes apart. And we found that really interesting, and we started thinking about how we could intervene into this geopolitical stalemate. How can we, like, personally involve us in?
Like, are it still possible to engage into such things, not having access to the situation, being in Zurich, but having like an internet connection and computers? I mean, like, can we? I don't know. You know, as artists, can we do something there?
And we decided to introduce a bit of normality into the situation. We quickly found out that the postal system was a system still working, so there were people going in and out of the embassy on a daily basis, bringing in mail, getting out mail. And we thought, what happens if we send Julian Assange a piece of mail? Will it arrive? Will this be taken out of the system? Will somebody look at this? And so we decided to make a piece of mail with a surveillance device inside. So we needed to get some feedback from our thing traveling through the mail system.
So we decided to build this parcel which had a small hole, and behind that was basically a mobile phone. We reprogrammed to produce something like a live stream. So it would take pictures every 15 seconds out of this hole, and just like upload it to our server. and upload it to our website where we had like this live feed running. And so, I mean, like, it's an interesting surrounding. Normally you don't have pictures of, you know, just the postal system is a little bit of a black box. You throw a parcel into this box and it arrives somewhere, but you don't, in the middle there's no documentation around it. And we're also interested in something we call unmanned photography, like photography which is happening by machines or by systems. Yeah, we came to London in January 2013, went to visit our friends in Eastern London, in Hackney, went to the postal office and dropped a parcel, went home and watched the thing live on the internet.
Yeah, we also shared this access to the images. So in a lot of our works, we like to voluntarily lose control. So it was not only us looking at these images, anyone online could see them in real time. The only difference was that we tried to sort of narrate the story of this parcel moving through the postal system through our Twitter account. You know, we took images we thought were interesting or important and
so basically,
commented.
Yeah, this was the live webcam, which was normally this was the normal status of having a black screen with this live logo there, and sometimes we would just like write a little bit about the story, like in the form of a tweet, just like not. Just trying to explain where we are, what's happening right at the moment, so you could just read this log file basically and get a sense of it, where we were, and what's happening. So inside, this was one of the first pictures we published. So this was an X-ray of the parcel. So basically, there was nothing inside. So this is just like electronics to run or the performance. So it's this black blob here are batteries, which would give us some 35, 40 hours of battery life. A little bit of electronics, and sorry, I don't know why this is happening. And here the mobile phone, which was connected to the internet over a 3G connection.
Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing also with this parcel is that. Unlike our digital mail, it's still protected by postal secrecy. So actually, you know, looking at the laws, it should have just gone through.
Yes.
We just didn't know what would happen.
So this was one of the first pics the parcel would take. So it's basically also a little bit of an artist portrait. It's me standing in a row. Waiting in the line, in the queue, waiting, you know, to give it up. And yeah, I mean, like, this was already a problematic moment because, I mean, like, there is this hole, there is like live electronics running. It's addressed to Julian Assange. I wasn't really sure if they would take it. I mean, you know, and if you check the scan, it looks kind of dangerous also. I mean, like, yeah. So, blurry pictures at the postal office, parcel on counter, and actually they accepted it. So it's Tuesday, I think, Wednesday. Wednesday, it's 12 o'clock, 12:44, and midday, and the parcel disappears in a red bag, and it would shoot images like this for hours, red bags.
And we really, I mean, doing this, we were really not sure anyone else was going to be interested in this experiment apart from us. We were absolutely mesmerized by these images coming in, you know, this, oh wow, red postal bag. It's getting dark, getting light.
Yeah, and I mean, like, they're small changes, but they're very significant, like in the sense of, okay, wow, we are still alive, and this thing is still there, and it's transmitting, and it's, we had like this really animal relationship to it, so where it felt
like an anime object.
Object, yeah. And 2 hours later, it just turned black totally. The images just like disappeared, and I mean, like, total blackout since half an hour. First doubts arise, maybe somebody has taped the camera, still black. After an hour, we realized that we got like GPS location, so we also had like GPS data, and realized that the parcel is moving, but the camera was off, it's black, so we weren't really sure, did the camera break? You know, it's very fragile electronics we are using, so it's, we are building those things by ourselves. If you drop that too hard, maybe the thing also breaks. So we basically came to London with three parcels.
Yeah.
So we could try the postal system, we could try private postal systems like DHL or something else, if it wouldn't work. So at around 6, like 3 hours later, after black images, we had light again, and boom, for the first time we would see something which felt real in the sense of objects. And we were in Whitechapel in the post.
Mount Pleasant,
Yes.
I think it's called the. Oh yeah, here it says post office.
So you see legs, trolleys.
And the images spread really quickly online. There was a really growing community growing fast around this work of people watching this, sharing the images on Twitter, commenting them, helping us to understand where in the British postal system we were moving. People helping us with geolocations. Our server started to go down because there was just too much traffic. People
started to write software which would archive all the images.
Because they were afraid of
that we'll lose them. There were like people offering us mirrors of the website to try and give us some server space, which was really nice to see that this is like really fluid thing happening. While you were performing, you're able to scale also the volume of traffic. And we would disappear in a green.
green bag, and I think at that stage we were moving again.
So it's 9 o'clock, so we are still in East London, but somehow realized that we are moving
out of the city towards the west.
To the airport, basically. And it was kind of immediately people started to make jokes on Twitter, like, hey, Royal Mail, there's like some optimization.
Room for improvement.
If you want to send something from East London to West London, don't send it out of town for 20 kilometers, So, at around
after midnight,
we arrived to another delivery center.
Yeah. Then it became dark again, and we were still near Heathrow Airport.
4 o'clock in the morning, black images, black since 1 hour 30.
And then on the move again, back towards the city, London, Victoria.
At the Thames, Vauxhall, South London Mail Centre at 5 o'clock. Then another post office, post delivery centre. And at around 8 o'clock in the morning the next day, we were kind of convinced that, we are going to be delivered soon. Since, we're really near the embassy. We're now in West London, and the speed of the thing was kind of really slow, just going from one point to the other, where we thought maybe we are already with the postal man who was carrying us, and
So here, this was like the stop and go movement where we sort of felt we might be in a delivery van. We weren't sure whether we were in a bag again.
So black images.
Yeah.
It's 10 o'clock. We think like, well, you know, we might be there in 10, 20 minutes. I mean, like, how would we pass the police barrier now? What's happening?
And around this time, the BBC wrote about the work, and when the article went up, our servers went down and like stayed down for a while. So we were like at the same time trying to get them back up.
So
people online were going, "Hey Bitnik, when's this parcel going to be delivered? You know, I really need to get some work done, and I've been watching this and not, you know."
So, well, Bitnik, no one is working at our office. Hey, I've been watching this for 24 hours. I'm exhausted. Hey, this is more exciting than the Mars rover. A black rectangle with life written on it in the corner has never been so interesting. What we've learned from Bitnik, parcels spend a lot of time in complete darkness. So at around that time, also people started to ask each other, hey, if somebody near this embassy could go and check out what's happening with that parcel. I mean, like, give us some evidence. So,
and here we got like the first views of the streets. We're really near the embassy now.
It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So the performance was going on for 24 hours now, so we didn't get no sleep, and it was kind of intense because there was much media requests. There was like this tension of this parcel, you know, which was out of our control, which was kind of alive, still alive. Then the
van was empty, and we were actually quite worried at this point that we, you know, the postal person going like, "Oh no, I'm not going to deliver this. I'll just take it back."
We're like really in Western London, just like next to the embassy. We knew that because the GPS location was kind of showing traces of it. It wasn't really good. We couldn't really receive a good signal, but the houses really looked like it. Good street view. It could just be next to the embassy, and at around 2 o'clock we were really in front of the house. And then we had like this pic, which we think was somebody's
thumb
on the camera. Getting dark.
And we sort of thought, well, this is not outside anymore.
Folder. I think we are in front of the embassy now, and it's black, all dark. 2 o'clock, nothing happening. Still nothing happening. Diplomatic crisis or lunch break. And then we got this pic. So it's really like, you know, I think on the computer screen you see it better, but it looks like a floor, like a wooden floor and a foot maybe. All dark again.
We really didn't know what was happening.
But it would say, I mean, like the geolocation would say it's Three Hands Crescent, which is the Ecuadorian embassy. And then, like, also the stress started with the battery life. Camera has been transmitting images. No, this is not yet. We assume we have been delivered to the embassy, all black, still transmitting what's happening. And then we got this tweet from WikiLeaks saying, "Hey Bitnik, the package has arrived and is now with the embassy security." So we knew we are inside. We passed the police barrier, but what's happening now? It's 3 o'clock, nothing happening for 90 minutes. The parcel camera transmitted over 9,000 images, most of them are black. Immediately people responded saying, "Hey, no, it's only like 5,939 images which are black," because they run forensic software on the images to see if something has changed also in the blackness of the images. So parcel camera has been online for 25 hours now. We estimate that the batteries will last another 6, but you never really know because circumstances. And
we got some light.
Some light.
We really didn't know what we were looking at. Some kind of cloth.
So the whole working day, we were waiting that something is happening, and this was like the highlight till then. Like image, right?
And then we got this image, and immediately we got tweets back from people saying, "I've been to the Ecuadorian embassy, and this is the waiting room."
And yeah, and afterwards realized that the Ecuadorian embassy didn't know how to deal with that project because it was live. They don't like cameras inside their space. They are surrounded by police. It has high tension. So basically, what they did, they just put it into a room and switched off the lights. And what happens here, that somebody entered the room, switched on the lights, realized that this parcel is there, and went out again. And the embassy staff didn't want to pass the parcel, but Julian Assange was kind of making a lot of effort to get it, because he convinced them that this thing is live on the internet. They should do something with it, and it's live on BBC. So there is a little bit of pressure of doing something. So at around 6, those things happen. Looks like a carpet, stripes. Picture of an animal. Is this thing on? And then it was clear that somebody in the embassy is performing, so it must be Julian Assange, and he's welcoming us to Ecuador. Hello world. Cow, image of kids, postal art is contagious. Line, welcome to Ecuador.
Yep.
So, and then he would realize that his face was away for a while, so he basically solidarized with people which are in similar situations like his. Justice for Aaron Swartz, free Bradley Manning, Chelsea Manning in the meantime, free Nabil Rajab, a
Bahrainian human rights activist,
free Anakata,
founder of Pirate Bay, co-founder of the Pirate Bay,
free Jeremy Hammond,
an Anon in prison, free Rudolf Elmer, a banker from Switzerland, free Anons, Justice for Aaron Swartz.
Transparency for the state, privacy for the rest of us. This was the picture which was shared the most, I think, which their stickers exist. Out of it, postal art is contagious. Thank you, Ecuador. Thank you to all our supporters. Keep fighting. 2013 will win. Out of cards. And this is it. And back to black.
So, and after completing the work, we showed the work a year later at an exhibition space in Zurich called Hilmhaus. We transformed parts of the live performance into a video installation, prints, but we also rebuilt Julian Assange's room at the Ecuadorian embassy. We had visited him various times, and we found it very interesting. Very much as you know, we started from an interest in the outside surroundings of the Ecuadorian embassy, but to see the inside, it sort of confirmed our impression that this situation is very representative for what's going on. So you have this clash of embassy, interior with hacker culture, with internet culture. You have somebody living in a very confined space in 20 square meters, while at the same time being connected to the world and
being able
keeping
to work
up a lot of the work under very difficult circumstances. And we decided to show this scale, this very small room within this very large gallery space. because we thought it tells a really important story.
So also our parcel is just like up here. This is, yeah. So maybe the last piece, which is called Random Darknet Shopper, which we realized in a show we produced from October on last year till January this year. And it was a show which was called The Darknet, From Memes to Onionland and Exploration. And we did that with the Kunsthalle St. Gallen. We co-curated the exhibition. Also, Hito Steyerl was also part of it. And basically we're interested in maybe also reflecting our medium we're working in. I mean, like after Snowden, we couldn't do the same things as we did before. We needed to look for alternatives, maybe.
Yeah, and for us it was also, we really felt like evaluating the internet and also the darknets that are part of the internet from an artistic point of view, and also looking for alternatives against mass surveillance, maybe. For us, this time after Snowden has felt like producing art under the conditions of mass surveillance, and it has raised different questions than we probably asked before.
So we had like artists which were basically focusing on questions like for identity, anonymity, disappearing, artistic production,
or memes. Yeah.
And we're kind of interested in the question of trust within those darknets. I mean, like how does trust works if I'm speaking to somebody where I don't know where it's located or who he is? How does those things work within those new super encrypted networks which are arising, and concepts which are kind of being defined at the moment?
So you have these dark nets that sort of form a space inside the internet where everything we know from the surface webs works differently. Identity has a totally different status. These networks are built so that people can communicate anonymously and securely, but it also obfuscates their identities so they can access the surface webs from other locations. I think, Peter Sunde with his VPN services goes into that direction. And we really wanted to look at this internet subculture forming there. And we basically built an online shopping bot, the Random Darknet Shopper, which went shopping once a week in a darknet market called Agora, which was the largest darknet market at that time, and had a budget of $100 in bitcoins per week, and just chose a random item, shopped that item and had it sent directly to Kunsthalle St. Gallen. So the interest was also in making a direct connection between the darknet and the gallery space, and sort of having this landscape of items coming out of the darknet on a weekly basis, sort of adding up to an image of darknet.
Yeah. So basically the idea was to fill those vitrines which are here, 12 for each week, one. This software we've written was totally autonomous, so it would run from this machine you are seeing there, and it would execute itself each Wednesday. And maybe we can just run through the items we got. So in the first week, the Random Darknet Shopper bot bought
Fire Brigade Master Key set from the UK.
Which was
you can maybe tell us what we can do with that.
Yeah. But it said that it's useful. It's a useful tool for unlocking and gaining access to communal gates and storage areas within the UK, and our bot paid $50 US for it. Afterwards, we realized that you can also buy that on Amazon for $7 US. So, but it arrived safely to the exhibition space and was added to it.
The next week it bought 10 packs of Chesterfield Blue from the Ukraine for $40 US. Quite a common thing to buy in the darknet, with the different countries in Europe having different taxes on cigarettes.
And the bot became quite famous during the time, so he's like really doing advertisement with the Random Darknet Shopping. This seller that that our bot bought it and that it's part of an art installation, that they're very proud that it happened. And the next week we had a Louis Vuitton bag from the US, which is actually the only item which never arrived, but the seller was so kind to give us back the money, so he said, I cannot deliver. Sorry. Yeah, so this never happened.
Then it bought the Lord of the Rings collection by J.R.R. Tolkien in PDF format, all books.
So some 1,000 sides. Then it bought a Visa Platinum credit card as a digital file for 28 or 35 US dollars, which we didn't check. We put it on this encrypted stick and also added it to the show. And then it bought this thing here, which cost us most of the troubles.
Yeah, it bought 10 yellow Twitter ecstasy pills containing 120 milligrams of MDMA, according to the vendor, for $48 from Germany.
So this is a screenshot of the site where our bot was operating, which was called Aura. And you could see that this item has a lot of
very good ratings.
Like 5 of 5 say that, most of the people gave them full perfect points.
This is also what's happening at the moment in the darknets, that they're really transforming the drug markets because it's a lot less risky. I mean, the quality of the drugs is better.
There's something like social control where you can say, okay, this guy's selling bad stuff, don't buy at his place. So it's basically playing with the same things. Amazon is also doing ratings and those systems.
And the drugs arrived and we exhibited them.
And they arrived in a DVD case, so they would maybe look inconspicuous while moving borders. Yeah. And our bot, I mean, like, it really received a lot of media attention after buying of the ecstasy, and like many news media in the US wrote articles about that the bot bought illegal drugs. Nobody knows what to do with that legally at the moment, so it's really hit something.
Of course, also touching on this topic, Peter Sunde was also talking about with self-driving cars, you know, who's responsible for flaws in the software of autonomously run whatever. With our bots, it's small scale, but the question, of course, arises in our times.
So
and
is it the person who programmed the thing? Is it the person who executed it? What I mean, like, what's happening if the software is open source software and many people are collaboratively working on it and it has a glitch? And what we also find, know that there are many glitches happening in the financial markets at the moment, where many bots are buying and selling stuff, and many of those glitches are caused by those bots, but nobody can't explain why they are happening because the systems
it's so complex.
Became too complex. Yeah, so it was basically about that, and we also
here you see the drugs in the exhibition.
Then we got Nike shoes from Hong Kong.
$75.
I'm not really sure if they're fake or not, but they are really heavy and they look really, really good.
Then we got a camcorder, so a cap containing, maybe you can see a spy camera.
So similar to the delivery piece.
For $99 US.
Then he bought something which I really loved. It was called the Decoy First Class Letter. So basically, a letter, somebody was offering a service that he would send a letter to any address you choose, and it would perform something like a network test. So basically, you could, if you are the receiving part of the letter, you could see if somebody has opened it, or if your mailbox was compromised, things like that. So the test was successfully completed after some days. A letter from a bank, supposed to be a bank from Australia, arrived in Switzerland.
Then we got a Sprite stash can for stashing money or drugs, the seller wrote.
Diesel jeans. And a Hungarian passport scan. A scan, just like a low-res JPEG of a file where we don't know if it's...
And so, yeah, the items, we showed them, most of them for various months, and the day after we took down the exhibition, on the 12th of January, the police seized the work, and we had it sealed, so to debate the seizure. We quickly learned it was, for them, it was about taking away the drugs, because they said that the drugs would cause or could cause harm to third parties if taken, so that they, as the state, were obliged to seize the drugs and destroy them.
There were other times we had like funny headlines, like drug buying robot arrested in Switzerland. The year 2015 will be remembered as the year a robot got arrested in a performance art piece. So, yeah, so we needed to find out how the legal thing worked. We already worked together with a lawyer beforehand, and he also wrote us a legal advice, yeah. Basically where it says, like in Switzerland, things like that should be possible under the conditions of freedom of art, that you should be able to do things like that. And also the state attorney, after speaking to us, we somehow convinced him that the drugs were kind of safe placed here, that you just couldn't walk in and take away or steal the drugs, and we told him that this would have been art robbery if somebody would do that. So they're part of an art piece, they're art projects, art objects now. So they dropped all the charges, tested the drugs for being positive or being drugs. So, but we knew that in beforehand because of all the good ratings. It was clear this is good MDMA. It's no, like, we don't have to discuss that. And in the end we got all the things back.
They dropped the charges, and they stated that buying drugs on the darknet was a reasonable means for raising public debate. So in a way, freedom of art won without it being called as such. And yeah, we received back all the items about 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
So I think this is it. Thank you.
Thanks.
We're on. So the format of this Q&A is slightly different. I've got a question to propose to our speakers, and then we will open to the floor. So I wanted to ask you both something that really relates to politics, but also to your work as artists. And I suppose the big part of my question is, do you feel the art world restricts your practice?
So your question is, does the art world restrict our practice?
I mean, because there's such a political, social message that you're trying to deliver, or that you do deliver, and of course it reaches outside of the art world into the media most clearly. Do you feel that the art world itself restricts the message that you're dealing with?
No, not at all. I think art within our practice, we see art as the arts field as being very enabling. We rely heavily on freedom of art for many of our works, and we also believe that it's really important for art to expand the topics it talks about, to stay contemporary, to stay relevant also, and that's what we're trying to do. A lot of times in our live performances, the fact that we are artists or that we do this within an artistic practice is maybe not that important to people who see the performance, because it happens in a messy outside world. Not always, but yeah, like with opera calling, it's the Green Party, or people identify it as being a political work. With Delivery for Mr. Assange, it was a performance online and on Twitter, so I don't know what people thought of that. But we think that's really interesting to sort of also debate these boundaries. And we do, in a second step, then try to bring the works back into a gallery space, also into a white cube space. We're very interested in working within, because we think that it raises totally different questions, or it can be a space for longer reflection. A lot of our works are fast, very, they don't stay for a long time, they disappear again. And the gallery space lets us put them into a more stable form.
Do you feel that the role you take on politically ever overrides your position as an artist, or are you forced to take a political position?
I don't think we take on a political position, and I don't think we have a political message. I think we try to look at things and try to connect spaces that are not necessarily brought together usually to raise questions maybe, but I don't think we can answer them. As I would understand the political approach, it would be also to try and answer questions. I don't think we can do that. The most we can do is raise questions, or make something apparent, or I don't know, visible. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Stephen, for kicking off the discussion. My name is Hito. Hello, I will continue facilitating the Q&A, so if there's any immediate questions. Yes, over there, please.
The art label actually protects you from being dealt with, because, for example, with the Assange thing, if you weren't artists, you could be charged with breaching some sort of security thing. So, and are you scared that the questions that you start asking start poking, and people try to deal with this kind of art in a more restrictive way?
I mean, for the Assange thing, it was really interesting that we spoke, before we did the performance, we spoke with many artists or friends here in London about the thing. I mean, what does it mean if you do that? And they were all like, hey, don't go there. It's, it's a war, you're entering a war zone. So we also spoke to a lawyer here in London. She was the only one who said, go for it. It's not, you're not doing anything bad. You're just it's a camera, which is in a postal thing, and it's running live, and there is this, there are maybe privacy issues with people being photographed, but it's not so bad. She said it's interesting. Go, do it. So legally, the lawyer was telling us to do things. You're trying to convince us to go further and try to explore things. And all our artist friends were like, hey,
yeah, but I think that's what we sort of meant a bit with producing art under conditions of mass surveillance. I mean, it is a question of what do you do with self-censorship? Are you part of Facebook because you just have to be there? Do you tweet because the art world or whatever world you're in sort of to participate asks or requires that of you. And I think for us it's, we don't have any answers. I think what we're trying to do is to keep up a critical art practice and trying to really also maybe sometimes dealing with systems that sort of scare us and that we're not sure, we sometimes discuss ideas and then sort of think about all the consequences and then, you're sort of ready to give up. But on the other hand, I think artists, with the means they have, can also maybe try to build a place from where to sort of critically talk about what's going on in a different way probably than political activists can do that, or other people can do that. But I think we have our own language and we should use it.
More questions? Well, if there's no immediate questions, I will ask a question. I would like to extend the question that Matthew asked before about the current state of the internet, and I would like to extend it in a specific perspective because I ran a kind of thought experiment with myself while sitting here, and I pretended to myself that I didn't know anything about the internet except, Peter's presentation and your presentation. And now I was trying to piece together what that all is, just using those two presentations. And I came up with a very interesting chronology, whereas, let's say the state of things that is past that Peter has been describing mainly was, let's say, the peer-to-peer stage, where people were giving other people access to things which they actually wanted but couldn't somehow get access to. It seemed to me that the second stage that you described in your earlier works was a stage where actually you were sending people things they never asked for, like operas, for example, or cameras, no? And then you said there was a massive break. Some guy called Snowden got into the picture and everything changed, and then it seemed to change that actually you got sent stuff that you never asked for, by a robot actually that got arrested. There's a very funny anecdote concerning robots and arrest. A few days ago, a woman that was to be arrested by a robot in California actually shot the thing. Well, anyhow, so there's a whole thing going on with arrest. So in the light of that, and also I was really fascinated by the postal work, the work where you sent Assange, the camera, into the embassy, and by the way you managed to sort of decipher the black box, which is like the holy grail of media theory. No one ever knows what's going on in there, as a red sack and a green sack and pieces of nothingness and then feet and so on. But the thing I want to ask, in the light of this change of people sending other people things which they want or do not want, using intermediaries or not, what do you think that the current state of the internet is, to come back to Matthew's question?
You want to try?
It's a really interesting question. I'm not sure. I'm sure. I sort of feel it's a mixture of we're getting what we didn't ask for. We're constantly being sent stuff we don't want, while at the same time, I'm not sure we're still getting anything we want, which probably then goes in the direction of what Peter Sunde was saying, that we need the internet to be broken enough to sort of, say, well, why am I, what the hell, what am I doing here? What am I getting out of this? And I'm not sure where we are there, but I think it's these, it's this, it's this question of exchange, yeah?
Yeah, and I mean, like, what Snowden showed us that, I mean, like, nothing is safe anymore. Also, the NSA cannot be protected. you know. So I mean, like
the
data, we have like a totally loss of control there. So basically, things are just like exploding. And 2 years ago, we went to the CCC, which is the Chaos Computer Club in Germany. It's a hacker congress, basically, and it wasn't really our world, although we touched similar topics in technopolitics. Hacking, we defined hacking as being something, maybe our art practice for some years. But we met people there which really believe that they can change things in the sense of, yeah, they can rebuild the internet. We need to rethink things. We need to rethink our relationship to each other. We need to rethink intimacy. And they're trying to develop things. And I thought, I mean, like, it's really enabling also, you know? I mean, like, we know what's broken. So it will take us some years, but there's still, like, things which are around, which are beautiful, and where we can rely on all those darknets as a concept. This won't die, you know? This will just, like, improve. And I think, I mean, like, this is not only a technical solution to it, but I think there's things we can, which are happening at the moment, which are interesting.
Matthew, I saw you previously with a question. Then Camille.
We have just one here, and then.
I'll be very brief. So I've heard a few times about the possibility of breaking the internet. I wouldn't dare to ask how to do it, but I would like to ask, what do you think would be the symptoms that we could see that the internet is breaking? Perhaps it's already happening, and my question would be, what would be the kind of tangible, observable symptoms of it?
That's really hard to say. I think something that we sort of feel when exchanging, say, with art spaces in China, because we're preparing an exhibition there, is that there people are much more used to having a highly censored online space, and they find ways of working around that we in Europe maybe are not so familiar with yet.
Constantly changing their identities, appearing on the net, you know, and being from Australia now and then from Argentina, trying to you know, pass those messages.
And that is so totally opposed to what you do on Facebook, that these gaps for me are like one thing that sort of arise, you know, when you sort of realize, okay, there are like two completely different ways of using the same thing, where you have to think radically in a different way, and I think these are sort of points where it starts breaking apart. But
or also the moment in Syria where the government was actually they were blocking by default access to Facebook and Twitter, and when the uprising started, what they did, they enabled people to use Facebook and Twitter, just like to be able to read the networks where they're heading. I mean, like there you see that, you know, something has changed in the last years. I mean, like from Egypt revolution, Twitter revolution to, yes, the government saying, hey, use it, you know, we can monitor you in this moment.
Yeah, just to come back to the kind of question of a broken internet. I mean, you know, if we look at the structure of TCP/IP, it's designed specifically as a broken system. But if we were to think of the two major systems that are kind of interweaving at the moment to produce what we have as the internet at the present, we have on the one hand a Turing machine-based system, which is a system of fundamental symbolic equivalence. So everything that can be symbolically produced can be incorporated into it. On the other hand, systems of different kinds of capitalism in which every kind of value can be transduced by money. And these two systems are kind of weaving in and out of each other in order to produce massive kind of silos or monopolies, such as those we've spoken about. But they're also producing different models of understanding these systems as they emerge. And one of these is the model of disintermediation, where capital reproduces its action in relationship to symbolic flows. So you have things like Uber, which kind of disintermediate taxi movement and break those economies. And it seems to me what a lot of your projects do is work on the basis of disintermediation, but produce aesthetic modes of understanding these systems of general equivalence and looking at their modes of modulation of each other. And it seems there's a history of projects that you're part of and others have developed, which is this sense of linking one mode of network, one system of symbolic transduction to another, and seeing what kind of mutational fields emerge from those. And I just wonder where you see this kind of question of disintermediation linking these two large-scale systems or producing kind of mutant connections between them as a way of kind of understanding the landscape in which your work operates.
Would you mind clarifying the first bit about the Turing machine-based symbol?
Yeah, so the Turing machine from 1936 is a model in which Turing describes the mode of activity of someone carrying out a calculation and produces an abstraction of a machine which can handle any manipulation of symbols, so whether it's mathematical, linguistic, and so on, and provides a very kind of basic description of the way in which symbols can be handled and handled in relationship to other symbols. And you have these two large-scale paradigms of the Turing machine on the one hand, and capital, which is a system of general equivalence via money, that seem to be the kind of dominant paradigms for structure and reality at present. And so I just wonder how these two systems operate in relationship to these projects that we've seen.
It's really hard to answer because I think a lot of our works come from an aesthetic interest that, of course, is produced by this interlinking of these systems. But for us, for me, it's really hard to describe this or to put it into words because, as Thomas quickly or shortly explained, we used to say one of our main artistic practices was hacking, and I would describe hacking as trying to understand systems and trying to see how they work, what the players are, and trying to link them in an interesting way. And I think for us, interesting means artistically interesting. For, I don't know, the people behind Uber, it means financially interesting, probably. But I think one of the things you could probably say is that in this complex world, it's probably very hard to know about all the consequences of the linking you're doing. So I think a lot of times the incredible thing is that the idea behind Uber is very well-meaning, or I think, there's this idea of making the world better, but that better, there's no common understanding of that better, And
like better in the sense of, hey, there's so many cars with empty seats, we need to fill them. We need to build systems where we can, it's a bug in the system, so we can solve that technically. And
I think that makes it a lot harder to move, because you constantly have to ask yourself, okay, what system am I moving within, and how is that system linked to other systems, and what's going to happen when I, do whatever. And we as artists, I sometimes feel we're totally immersed, and the only thing we can sort of do is try to, sometimes we succeed in showing something interesting happening somewhere in detail, but I don't think we have this, you know, the way you describe it, it's more a bird's view. We're not birds in that sense, you know, we sort of, we're on the messy end, I sometimes feel. We're just trying to make sense of our surroundings, and I think, yeah, but I do think that this hacker view, like trying to understand systems and trying to ask who are the players, who is profiting from this, where's this going, you know, why would somebody in that position from there do that?
What happens if I cut this information flow, if I take this, everything is fluid there.
Trying to, you know, uncover black boxes in a sense, or trying to work out, you know, how the inner workings are. I think that helps a lot to understand our world, at least us, it helps a lot.
More questions? Well, I think it's not a coincidence, no, that in this more or less artificial sequence, the role of the proxy and of the VPN has become much more important. I mean, from the peer-to-peer stage to the current stage, where in essence you have to send a bot out to do things which you yourselves couldn't do. And I think maybe this is one of the crucial differences. No, I remember something that Peter said about techniques like encryption and so on being like a condom that wouldn't really, you know, affect the overall state of things. But in your instant, it seems to me as if the condom or the proxy or the VPN or the bot actually allows for a reconfiguring of intimacy, which goes, you know, mere beyond initial protection. What's your comment on this?
Yeah, I would say so too, but it's probably, we're probably not as pessimistic as Peter is in that respect, but we're probably also less there and a lot more pragmatic. So I think for us, right after the Snowden revelations, people said the internet is broken, we need to leave it, you know, just, you know, don't, you know, off the grid. That's not, we're not going to go there. I think it's going to be, for us at least, I think it's not only condoms. I think it's really, I think you find solutions by going step by step and trying to maybe also network with as many other people trying to go step by step to somewhere else. Yeah.
So one last question.
I think it was quite clear early on in this history of Matt was referring to this kind of history of internet art and hacking, that the sort of the legal frameworks would be the sort of other layer that or the systemic layer that and symbolic layer that artists would be confronted with. And I'm wondering also, so this is kind of interesting kind of interplay between the facility or the ability of the art context to also provide this condom or this prophylactic in a legal sense. And so I guess I'm interested in the question. I wanted to ask Peter a question actually, which is about what other types of this move into the art world, which he was kind of embraced within occasionally, and how that felt, and also what other artists or art projects were out there kind of purposefully using the sort of art, the prophylactic art world as a sort of cover for investigating legal boundaries, or pushing legal boundaries. So yeah, it's not really a question, it's about an observation between the sort of moving more and more into the sort of legal frameworks and doing that under the cover of the art tent. And you know, maybe that's where the new frontier is. I mean, the law as a system.
Yeah, I think for us, the law was never that important. You know, it was, or we sort of find interesting topics and then have to realize that we'll get in trouble with the law if we talk about them within the arts, and then the arts sort of help to get us out of legal trouble. So our lawyer has also said to us that we do art for lawyers or law universities, which is a bit absurd because it's not a field we're actually interested in. You know, I don't do this to, you know, give the law practice interesting cases. That's not why. I mean, our interest is different. But I think that art actually always has had that capacity to sort of within society to sort of be a condom, if you want, to talk about, you know, the other restrictions society gives, taboos, but also laws. And we're at the moment more thinking that these laws are becoming totally obsolete. So we're not sure what that is going to shift, you know, not for our practice, but generally for art. Because, I mean, yeah, art can be a sort of place to debate laws, but laws don't matter because it's not actually our governments making them anymore, or we're not making them anymore. It's
the internet governments.
Yeah, it's technologies making.
It's PayPal who is defining.
Exactly.
Well, it's the kind of the whole discourse about terrorism is really that. So you got the two key laws for artists is freedom of information and then the Counter-Terrorism Act or something. These two sort of and copyright is the other one.
Yeah.
So you know. Within these are, and they're constantly kind of being updated, and so the Counter-Terrorism Act was just recently updated.
So I don't really know where that leaves us as artists. You know,
okay, I think there's one person that wants to intervene into this, and this will be really the last contribution to this debate before the break. Yes.
Yeah, I was just thinking of maybe the notion of hyper-objects, kind of what Timothy Morton kind of reflects there, kind of these ideas of global warming, this kind of super surveillance, that they cannot really be managed. There is no kind of manageable input. So we're actually talking here of excess in those systems. I think that's more or less a remark to that, or kind of a reference maybe to this kind of hyper-objectability, if you want to say so.
Okay, but it didn't really clarify the problem at hand, but maybe we will just push it to the last panel we have tonight. Also the question of geopolitics and the law and extraterritoriality and the art world, which I personally also find fascinating. I hope we can continue this debate later on. Thank you, and we will continue at 5 in here with the presentations of Judy Weichman, right, and Karen Archie and Olya Liadina. Thank you.